Hi guys, this is Sliver here, and in this video I'm going to talk about what I believe is the fastest way to level your character from 1 to 60 in Diablo 4 Season 9. Now, generally, the fastest way to level has always been the newly added seasonal activity in each season, and this time it's no different. It is the season of Nightmare Dungeons, and I believe that most guides agree with me on that Nightmare Dungeons are going to be the fastest way to level with the newly added Forgotten Wisdom affix. Let me explain. If you open a Nightmare Dungeon with the Forgotten Wisdom affix on the sigil, then each mob inside the dungeon has a chance of dropping an experience orb for your character. And this experience orb, when picked up, will grant you a bunch of experience, and the amount of experience depends on your level. So it will scale up with you, the reward will scale up with you the higher your level you are. So all in all, the main goal of the leveling is to spend as much of your time as possible inside these Nightmare Dungeons with the Forgotten Wisdom affix. But the question arises, how do you get there? Let's go step by step. First of all, you will want to select the normal difficulty for your leveling. Second of all, you will want to complete as much as possible of the seasonal questline. Not only because you will get the seasonal skills, the seasonal powers that will make your character way stronger, but also because you will get escalating Nightmare Dungeon sigils when you complete certain points of the questline. These escalating Nightmare Dungeon sigils can also have the Forgotten Wisdom affix on them, so if you are lucky enough to get one of them during your seasonal questline completion, then you should run them. Otherwise, when you complete the seasonal questline, or at least the part of it that is available to you, then you should go hunting for Nightmare Sigils. And in order to do that, you will want to get as many Tree of Whisper caches as possible. So, after finishing the part of the seasonal questline that is available to you, you should run the Helltide and do the whispers inside the Helltide, and after that, do the different whispers that are available to you on the map. For example, you can do the dungeon whispers, you can do the whispers inside the PvP zones, or anything really, in order to maximize the amount of whisper caches that you get. We are forming these whisper caches because they have a high chance of containing a Nightmare Dungeon sigil, and hopefully this Nightmare Dungeon sigil will have the affix that we want, the Forgotten Wisdom affix. If you have opened a bunch of whisper caches and you gotten a few Nightmare sigils but they don't have the Forgotten Wisdom affix, then I suggest salvaging all but one of your Nightmare Dungeon sigils. So salvage all of them except one, and then you will get a bunch of sigil powder. You will be able to craft new Nightmare sigils from the sigil powder at the Occultist. Keep in mind that the Occultist is only available at level 25 or after you have salvaged a legendary and acquired a legendary aspect. Until then, no sigil crafting. And if you manage to craft one of the sigils with the correct affix, then you can run that. If not, then I still suggest running Nightmare Dungeons. That's why you preserved one of the Nightmare sigils. So in that case, run the last remaining Nightmare sigil that you have, even if it doesn't have the Forgotten Wisdom affix. The reason for that is that you will get a new random Nightmare sigil when you complete the Nightmare Dungeon, so you should run through the Nightmare Dungeon as fast as possible and then get a Nightmare sigil at the end, and who knows, that might have a correct affix for you. If you manage to get a hold of and run a Nightmare Dungeon sigil with the Forgotten Wisdom affix, then you should not rush towards the boss immediately. You should take your time killing every single mob inside the dungeon because of the chance of them dropping an experience orb. If you manage to get a escalating Nightmare Dungeon sigil from your questline that has the Forgotten Wisdom affix, then you basically won the lottery, because all 3 Nightmare Dungeons in consecutive order will have this affix for you, and that will yield you a ridiculous amount of experience. So, in summary, in order to maximize your experience gained, you should do the seasonal questline for as long as possible, then get a hold of as many nightmare sigils as possible by completing whispers and getting whisper caches, prominently doing the Helltide, and when you open those whisper caches, you should fish for nightmare sigils with the new Forgotten Wisdom affix and run them. You can maximize your chances of getting this Forgotten Wisdom affix if you salvage your excess nightmare sigils at the occultist and then use the sigil powder you got from salvaging to craft new nightmare sigils with random affixes. If you are not lucky enough to get a Forgotten Wisdom affix, then you should just run your regular sigil, and at the end of the nightmare dungeon you will get a new random sigil, hopefully with the correct affix this time. And that's it. If you found this video useful, then feel free to subscribe to the channel for more Season 9 Diablo videos. Thanks!